welcome back. So today we're talking about consistency and discipline. So a lot of people start new habits. You might want to give something up, you might want to start something new that you haven't done before. It all works out nicely for about 3 days, 4 days, and then what happens? Oh no! Boom, back to the usual thing. The whole thing's abandoned and you feel like something wrong, I'm a failure, what's wrong with me, blah blah blah. So this is a pattern that most people go through again and again and again. So how do we get out of it? Well, first thing we want to do is we need to have a good reason to actually stop things or start things. Because if your motivation isn't solid, if it's coming from the ego or if it's coming from some pointless place, someone said you should do it, it's not going to last. So what's your real motivation? You might want to think about that. What are the pros and cons? Why is this so important? How is it going to make your life better? You've got to really have a deep, sincere, meaningful shift in yourself. That's the first thing to do. Second thing is to realize that you're dealing with willpower initially. The first few days of any new habits, you're dealing with your conscious mind and you have to deal with things practically, and things come up and you're like, well, I don't want to do it, and all these old habits appear. So it's the willpower is the initial thing, but willpower isn't good enough. We need to get into the habit, and it takes at least 21 days of consistently doing something for it to become a habit so that it becomes easy. So you've got to do it that amount of time, otherwise you'll fall back. But in order to actually be able to do it for 21 days, you can't rely on your willpower, so you need something else. There's a magic ingredient that we talk about a lot in superhero training. So what is that magic ingredient, brother?
Well, we need to go to a bit of depth and tap into some power. Superhero training, we deal with the different levels of the psyche, the different levels of ourself, and any excuse me, addiction pattern that we're in obviously has its roots in some dysfunction or disease, disharmony, wound within us. So the willpower, as Mike's talking about, is very much the conscious mind, the more superficial levels of ourself. And then there's this deeper level which we discover through our subconscious and unconscious minds. And then there's an even greater depth, the spiritual aspect of the soul, which is where we commune with, we experience the love of God, the peace of God, the light of God. And this almighty power, when we're talking about God, we're talking about the almighty power, the power within all of life and within ourselves, that we can access from within ourselves. When we connect with that power, and we merge with that power, and we align our thoughts and words and actions with its nature, so our spirit becomes harmonized with the great spirit, you might say, then we have this power flowing at our disposal, and this power can accomplish anything. It can liberate us from all kinds of addiction patterns. I remember a great spiritual teacher once said to me years and years and years and years ago, the only thing you're addicted to is God. I really thought about that, and when you think about it, you know, a lot of our addiction patterns, they're kind of like responses, conditioned responses, habitualized patterns that respond to stress, and we go for these things, whatever it is. That's our mechanism, that's our stress response. And this feeling of stress is an absence of this spiritual goodness of our own true self. We're responding to life in a way that's coming through the persona, personality, the ego, and so we experience stress rather than responding to life from our spiritual integrity, from our spiritual goodness. And of course this is a completely different aspect of oneself, and this is who we actually are. So when we become familiar with that within our own inner journeyings, and the conscious part of us that Mike's saying has to have really good reason to drop the habit, and you really need to identify the pain in order to use that reason effectively. Maybe project forward from here into the future, a year or 5 years or 10 years. If I was going to carry on in this addiction pattern, what would I be like? What would my life be like? Who would I be in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years if I carry on doing these things? And it compounds the negative effect of it all. And give yourself some leverage. See the degree of suffering that you're going to be bringing upon yourself by choice, really, or inability to choose. And it's when we can really surrender and drop into this humbling experience and reverent respect and humility towards this magnificent, almighty, all-conquering power within us that has dominion over all conditions and all apparent appearances and apparent conditions. It's boss of all that. It has dominion. It has power over it all. It can give you the ability to transcend these things. And I think a lot of it is almost like embodying a way of being that is actually a transcended version of yourself, almost, rather than trying to fix your brokenness, because the ego is broken. It's not a case so much about healing the ego, because it is broken. It's a shattered, false, redundant version of who we believe we are. So it's not so much about fixing that thing. It's about walking in a new identity that you harvest from within yourself. And of course, superhero training is geared towards helping you do that and express that within every facet of your life.